Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Feral Brand Method podcast. So glad to be back making podcast episodes as usual. So this is my jam, if you guys don't already know. So I, of course, love talking. So, that's why I have two different podcasts. I actually have a third that I'm probably going to do too, but it's going to be something completely different. I think it's going to be more just open, unapologetic, and just me sharing, more personal things. So yeah, I think that might be in the works. Maybe I'll have a co-host on that one. So we'll see. So first of all, thank you for listening to the podcast, continuing to listen. I know I have kind of shifted for you people who have listened to me for a long time, and just some things that I've kind of shifted as far as, my brand and just the direction that I want to take the podcast. And I appreciate everybody that continues to listen and has continued to follow along in what I'm doing, because this is something that I'm very passionate about. And if you're new here, my name is Karina, and I am a content strategist where I help women with personal brands be feral in their content. So I do help with, putting your content strategy together, not really content calendars, because I think that there's an easier way to do it. And I do a lot of nervous system regulation. We pull your birth chart and we tailor your content to those principles and implement a blueprint to make you go feral in your content. So that is the basis of my business. Please make sure that you guys follow on TikTok, because I do post daily on TikTok. So I have really kind of started ramping up and warming up the small audience I have there. So growing that page as well, because that is the second page that I'm growing. And so far, because it started out as one thing, so I've completely rebranded that page to fit this impact and this mission and vision that I have for the Feral Brand Method. So make sure you guys follow along on that, because it's good, juicy stuff. So let's get into today's episode. We're going to be talking about your nervous system is running your business. Now, I have tightened it up and I've really regulated myself where I don't have situations like this anymore, where your revenue fluctuates with your emotions. So if your revenue fluctuates with your emotions, I want you to listen carefully to this podcast episode, because we're going to be talking about some really juicy stuff when it comes to that. Now, I'm a Pisces. That is my zodiac sign. So I am very spiritual. I'm very emotional, and very just, I have an imagination that runs wild, which is 100% true. And also within my birth chart, I am a Pisces sun. I am a Taurus moon. I am a Venus Aries. So my rising, I'm a Cancer rising. So yes, my Venus sign is in Aries. So I have a lot of fire signs in my birth chart. So I have a lot of mother energy. So I'm very grounded but I also lead with authority and unapologetic, fire energy. So they always say Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, that it's like we're very sweet and calm, but don't cross us, because we'll fuck you up. Hence, that's why I have a Venus in Aries, of course. So I see a lot of women, especially with personal brands, small brands, small businesses, things like that, that when it comes to their emotions, if you don't feel good, your revenue fluctuates. This has happened to me, where if I'm feeling good, I'm making a ton of fucking money and just, in the flow and this and that. But if life hits me hard and then I fail to show up, I don't make any money. The problem with that is that most women build businesses when you're dysregulated, you are in shambles, you are in the hustle culture, you are just in that fucking survival mode. And we build businesses from dysregulation, and we can't regulate our emotions. It's like, oh, when it's good, we're making money, but then life hits us. This does, the kids, divorce, a breakup. And all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I'm not making any fucking money. Like, what the hell is going on? And this has happened to me too. So what happens is you get anxiety around launches when you're launching like a new offer, a new product, whatever. You get anxiety around that because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do all this work and to launch this and put this out there. And then you're posting, you have like emotional spikes, and then you're posting in those emotional spikes. And then what you're doing is trauma dumping in your content. Nobody wants to listen to that. Okay. And then you are disappearing when you're getting triggered, when life hits you hard, when nothing is going right, your boyfriend broke up with you, and that is ruining your business. Like your nervous system is running your business and it's ruining it. Okay. And then you go through periods of burnout cycles where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm posting every day. I can't do this and this, and then it just doesn't become fun anymore. Okay. So we have to get out of the state of, okay, if you're overstimulated, if you're not regulated, if your nervous system's in shambles, you're in burnout mode, you're in survival mode, you're in hustle culture. For some reason, I can't even say that word today. It's probably because I do a lot of hustle culture and I'm fucking a hustler by nature. So when we're in this state, we have to do things to get us more back into a Zen state, into a regulated state. Because if you let your nervous system run your business, guess what? You're going to be out of business. And then you're going to be broke as fuck. Okay. So these are some of the things that we need to do. We need to have a baseline on how we regulate ourselves. Okay. So when we know we're approaching the threshold, it's like, all right, we need to stop. And either you need to step away from your desk, you need to do something that will go ahead and bring you back to your center and bring you back to a regulated state. Whether it's meditation, whether it's reading, it's, dancing, music, doing a hobby, working out. Working out is one of my biggest things because I do my best work and I get my best ideas when I'm working out in the gym. Going for a walk, anything that kind of regulates, self-care, whether it's taking a bath or reading a book, listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook, anything that gets you to some kind of, you have to figure out what's your baseline to regulate yourself, because you can't create content when you're a fucking hot mess. People will see that. And I see that every day on TikTok where people just go ahead and press record and they're a fucking hot mess. Yeah, it's good because, you get the tea on what the fuck is going on with them, but you could see they're dysregulated and people are like, all right, this gets boring after a while. So you have to determine the difference between having capacity versus hustle. We have to get out of the hustle culture, okay? Hustling doesn't really get us anywhere. Yeah, I understand that if shit comes to Shinola, yeah, you gotta hustle for the money because the light bill is due or this and that. But you can't operate a business out of that hustle culture because it's only going to last you so long and you're going to burn out like real fucking fast. So you got to build more space for more capacity so that you have more time to step away from the business and let it run on its own, where you can do other things and be, your cup is filled and be present for your kids, husband, spouse, boyfriend, whatever the case is. Now, expansion is going to feel uncomfortable at first. Okay. So when you kind of expand your capacity where you're letting your business operate on autopilot, or you have a team, or you have an assistant, or whatever the case is, or, you have a JV partner, it's going to feel uncomfortable because it's kind of hard to let go of control. I know I am, a person that hates to let go of control because I've had to manage control my whole entire life. And that has been one of the things that I've had to work on, to let go of control where other people can do it so I can have more capacity and more space to really just regulate myself, make more time for myself, make more time for my kids, fill my cup, so that when I produce content, it comes from a fucking healed place and it's regulated and it's on point. Okay. One of the other things that we need to do is have that awareness when we have emotional waves. So if you know that if you're in, your periods, if you want to time your content around your periods, you can do that. Okay. That when, it's that time, you can just rest and not deal with and have everything scheduled out as far as content, as far as this, and things are running on autopilot. So we have to be aware of what your emotional wave is. I know that there are certain periods of the month where I have zero energy to do anything. And even though I get up in the morning, I work out, and I just still have zero energy. Even though I am going through perimenopause, I still have those cycles, like if it was a period where it's just, I am just spent and it's awful. So what I do is I make sure that I block out time where I'm not going to make any decisions. I'm not going to create content. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to repurpose stuff, and I schedule things out so that I have time to rest and I can regulate my nervous system, because that's what it's all about. The other thing is visibility. You have to be uncomfortable with being visible and putting yourself out there as far as social media. Because, you put yourself out there, you're going to open up yourself to unwanted comments, cruel comments, people who don't like you, people who think, you're a sham, a scam, a this, a that. They will just say things for no reason. I mean, I see people putting hate comments when there's like a funny cat video. People always have something to hate on. So as far as visibility, you need to stand just comfortable in that visibility, even though sometimes visibility for people is uncomfortable, but you have to stand in that power and make sure that you are the authority. Okay. And then you need to do a self-censorship audit. What I mean by self-censorship is that you should not censor yourself just because somebody else might cancel you. You shouldn't censor yourself just because you think people aren't going to like you and they're going to unfollow you. Who gives a shit? Okay. You're there to make an impact in your brand. You're there to help people. You're there to make sure that you solve the issue that they're hiring you for. Okay. The issues that they're paying you to solve. So we need to audit that, because why are we censoring ourselves? If they don't like it, they can keep scrolling. There's a nice block button. Who says, why are we waiting for permission or allowing people to make us feel a certain way? And why are we allowing people to censor us when they're not even your people? So we need to take an audit of self-censorship, because we shouldn't be censoring ourselves. You should be talking about the topics that are relevant, that help people. And if somebody doesn't like it, who gives a fuck? Thank you, but no thank you. Bye. That's how we should be. Now, if you want to regulate your nervous system to match your ambition, to match your authority, to make sure you stand in that power, start with the audio series that I have linked in the show notes. That will help you to get you unblocked in your content and stop letting your inner child run your content. So that is what I have for today's episode. So make sure you follow on TikTok, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with somebody that needs to hear it and that needs help when they need to go feral in their content and make some fuck you money. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will chat with you guys in the next episode.